24, we read from text 24 to 35. And this is where we begin the story itself. This is where there's a group of sages at Prayaga, and they're all kind of reciprocating very sweetly and saying, "You have the most mercy of Krishna." Yeah. And in that, amongst there, then there's one Brahmana specifically, and he's the spiritual leader of the community, and he's very affluent, and he's a great devotee of the Lord. And it describes he's fully absorbed in rendering service to the Lord, and he comes to Prayag, and he begins to build what's known as a temporary altar so he can worship, and he's engaged in worship of Shalagram Shila. And he offers Bhoga. He does, as we mentioned, is interesting last week's reading and probably some more as well today. There's a lot of cultural aspects comes out of the practice of Krishna consciousness, of specifically a worship as well, how to treat Vaishnavas. And so he engaged in what we could understand as Soto Sopachara Puja, offering 16 items of worship. His worship of Shalagram Shila. And then he's described as like, where was it? He described as a one-man festival. He was so infused and so enlivened. He was offering, he was doing the arti or whatever, and he was singing and dancing, and then he honored all the Vaishnavas and everyone present, and he washed their feet, and he took the dust, he took the water upon his head, and then he made sure everyone was fed with all the Mahaprashadam, and even the dogs, he made sure, if there's any dogs there was there, he made sure they were fed. And he also sent some, or he had it arranged that jackals which were hiding away, food was left for them as well. Also, he made arrangements that the birds could get Mahaprasad, and also he made arrangements that some food should be left on the floor for the insects. So very, you could say, charitable Brahmana. And that leads us up to text 36. Okay, so let's see where we go from here. So, and anyone like to read? Let's play a basis to Srila Prabhupada first, then we can begin with Kunamai can read. Nama Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachadini Nivasesha Sunnivari Pashtatad Satadini Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so so far we've been reading a verse each, but if there's small purports, you can perhaps read a couple of verses. So Kunamai, you can begin us a reading on this today's adventure, beginning at text 36 of Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 36. When he had thus satisfied everyone, the holy man invited him to take the remnants of the sacrifice. With his family and followers, that leader of Brahmanas then enjoyed the nectarian prasad with great delight. Commentary. Only after every living being in the vicinity was fed and pleased did the host, with his family and servants, honor Lord Mahadev's prasad. This food was now Amrit, the exceller of immortality, a sheer delight to taste, because it had been offered to Lord Krishna in devotional sacrifice. Text 37. After this, he again went before Saligram deity of Lord Krishna, and with folded hands he offered to the Lord all the pious credits he had earned by the sacrifice. Commentary. In sacrificial offering, the mantras chanted declare that the oblations, after being offered, belong to the deities being worshipped. Idam Indraya Namama. This is for Indra. It is no longer mine. But most performers of Vedic rituals, even while verbally declaring surrender, maintain the subtle ambition to possess not only the oblations themselves, but the fruits, the outcome of the sacrifice. Pure devotional service begins when one makes offerings only for the pleasure of the Supreme, with no hidden motive. Text 38. The leader of the Brahmanas put the deity comfortably to rest and got ready to return home. Sri Narad, however, had been watching him at a distance from within the assembly of sages. Just then Narad stood up. Text 39 to 40. Again and again, Narad announced, "This is the Supreme Lord Vishnu's most dear devotee." Then he ran up to the Brahmana and declared him the recipient of Lord Krishna's highest mercy. Narad proclaimed this openly to all, beside himself with eagerness for devotional service to Lord Krishna. Commentary. Narad had been enjoying the festival incognito, but the ecstasies he was tasting in pure love impelled him to announce his realizations. All the Lord's devotees are dear to the Lord, as implied here by the word janam, which can mean either people in general or specific person. Narad knows whom the Lord most favors, and thus the word janam also expresses a more confidential idea in Narad's mind. He is ultimately referring to the dearest servant of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani. The Brahmana and other devotees Narad will praise are also aware of their own lesser devotional standing. Narad here speaks mainly to enlighten the public, but also to gain the impetus for his expedition to the far ends of the universe in search of Sri Krishna's best devotees.
All right, let's pause there, shall we?
Thank you.
Yeah, any reflections on this? Yeah.
I like the part when you're supposed to just offer without expecting to get the remnants. That's not me, hopefully, in this life.
Yeah. Funny enough, I was just trying to remember that, and you just brought it up. Yeah. So that's easily said than done, but that's the principle of pure devotion. And if we have that mood, we will be flooded with so much happiness that we won't know what to do with it. You know, that's why he said, "Idam mama." Let me just go back. Idam mama indraya namaha. Yeah, idam indraya mama. So we normally hear when there's a fire yagna, we hear idam krishnaya namama. You know, swaha idam krishnaya namama. This oblation is not for me. It's completely for the Lord. And as Gobru Prandanana brings up, and Gaya mentioned, that yeah, this is quite this is not ordinary. This is obviously a devotee. It's extraordinary. Nothing is for me. Yeah, so in other words, what he's doing, he's doing all this worship, but then he's saying, please, nothing is for me. Everything is for the Lord. So with that mentality, you know, living a life in that mentality, then Krishna, then you're lovingly forcing Krishna to take complete care of you, materially and spiritually. Yeah. Because Krishna has to, because you're not going to take care of yourself. You're so busy serving him, you're so busy worshipping him and serving him, that you may not be making suitable arrangements for your own living. So therefore, Krishna personally maintains a devotee. Yeah, so with no hidden motives. Yeah. Another name for this is, what's the name? Is where it's covered, one's devotion is covered. There's a name for it. It might be covered in Gyan. You know, we may be more interested in becoming knowledgeable and scholarly. That may be more emphasis than becoming devoted to Krishna. Or we may want some type of siddhi or some type of moksha. Yeah, I'll think of the word in a minute for covered. So, yeah. Idam Krishnaya na mama. So hopefully at the end of our life we can say Idam Krishnaya na mama. This whole life was for you. Also in the Pancharatra scriptures, it describes that the Lord's servants, before they rest, and there's some nice verses in the book called the Pancharatra Pradeep, where you mentally offer everything you have done to the Supreme Lord. Yeah, everything you've done with your mind, your body, your senses, everything. You know, I have them verses and I was reading them at one time, but then I got out of the habit of doing it. But just before you take rest, you also there's where you mentally visit within your mind everything that you did in that day, and in case you may have not done at the time, then you offer it all to Krishna. It's all for you, Krishna. Idam Krishnaya na mama. Yeah. So now the Muni's been in. Now he's made his appearance here. So he's been incognito, and he's been watching this Brahmana. There was something else culturally which I noticed, but I forgot what it was now. Let me just go back quickly. Something about Mahabhashadam. Yeah, that was the point. That he was the last one to take Prashadam. Yeah, that's as the leader of the community, he made sure everyone else was fed. A bit like Madhavendra Puri, you know that chapter in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhavendra Puri's devotional service when he establishes the Gopal deity. He literally, he's because he installed the deity and organized the prasad and worship. And at the very end of the day, he took a little drink, you know, when everyone else had already taken prasad. So now Narada Muni is seeing, he comes on the scene and he's very ecstatic and he cannot hold himself back. That's Narada Muni. He often gets quite ecstatic. He can't hold his ecstasy. So he's expressing it here. He's praising this Brahman as the best of devotees. So I've been scrolling back and forth and up and down. So where did we leave off? Excuse me. Which verse was it? Was it this verse?
41.
Yeah, so
40.
141 now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so any additional comments on that? Or? Yeah, Idam Krishna, nah. Right, so Anupama, you like to read text 41?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sri Narada said, O leader of the Brahmanas, it is you who have received Lord Krishna's greatest favor. After all, you have such wealth, property, generosity, and personal opulence. Again and again, Narada announced, this is the Supreme Lord Vishnu's. Oh, sorry, Prabhu. Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Because I'm reading from the screen. Yes, I don't have a book.
Okay, yeah.
O wise one, in this best of the holy places, we have now seen for ourselves that you are using all these assets exclusively to establish pure religion. Commentary. The Brahmanas' personal opulence is the paraphernalia showing his status, his vehicles, especially items of clothing and so on, and his entourage of family members, associates, and subordinates. His pure religion is devotional service to the personality of Godhead. The Brahmana did not abuse any of his apparently material issues by employing them for, assets, by employing them for material purposes. These assets had come to him as byproducts of his devotional service without his striving for them. He could hardly keep them hidden, as Narada here remarks, but still he was happy to put them to transcendental use.
Yeah, this just reminds me of there's a verse in the beginning of the Bhagavatam that all material gain shouldn't be used for material expansion, yeah, or for material sense gratification. It should all be dovetailed to the devotional service of the Lord. It's in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Yeah. So similarly here, all these assets. And when it says vehicles, they didn't have cars. I don't think those. So probably meaning must mean horses or I don't know, palanquins, chariots, everything. You know, but it like that. So yeah.
Shall I
Right.
carry on?
Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah, text 43. That most learned Brahmana then replied to the best of sages, O Master, what signs of Krishna's mercy have you seen in me? Who am I but a most wretched person? How much charity am I able to give? What opulence do I have? And how have I ever reciprocated with the Lord in devotional service? Commentary. Any true devotee of Krishna considers himself insignificant, thinking himself one of the countless jivas who are mere sparks of God's splendor. The devotee is sorry for having foolishly rebelled against his creator. And referring on this rebellion, he thinks that his relative influence amongst other fallen jiva means little. Text 45.
Yeah.
But in the southern country, there lives a great ruler whose kingdom has many temples of God and the demigods. He is the true recipient of Lord Krishna's mercy. Text 46. Saintly mendicants come to his kingdom from all directions, along with pilgrims and other visitors. Sorry, I need to move from. They wander happily, sustained by food that has been offered to Krishna. Commentary. The Brahmana describes the great king as a Maharaj, a ruler of several other kings in his area. He was not the emperor of the entire continent. Sorry, what word is that, Prabhu? The Chakravarti?
Chakravarti, yeah, that means circle.
Okay, the Chakravarti, that higher.
Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah,
okay,
like the leader amongst the circle of Vaishnavas.
Okay, the Chakravarti, that high position was occupied at the time by the Pandava, Yudhishthira. Later in this chapter, the southern king will also be called Sarvabhauma because his kingdom occupied a large area. Many accomplished saints migrated in his kingdom, attracted by his spiritual features. Other people who came, including ordinary visitors, renounced pilgrims, traveling to purify themselves, and distressed person in search of food and shelter. All of them took advantage of the sacred, delicious Krishna Prasad freely available throughout the kingdom. Text 47. Near the king's palace, the personality of Godhead resides as if directly in his original form of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss. He has kindly assumed a non-moving appearance. Commentary. The Lord's incarnation as the deity in a temple is stationary, at least to ordinary eyes. He is the same absolute person who lives in his spiritual world, yet he assumes a special form to make himself visible to everyone. The Lord's pastime incarnations who move about displaying adventures with their devotees are rarely seen in this comic manifestation. But the Vishnu deity in the king's capital was so potent and attractive that the citizens almost forgot he was a non-moving deity.
Okay, perhaps we can stop there.
Okay, thank you.
So now this Brahmana from, if we could call him the Brahmana from Prayaga, he's been glorified by Narada. So therefore, he's, Vaishnavas by nature do not like being glorified. Yeah. So therefore, he's taken a humble position. Insignificant. He sees himself as an insignificant jiva. Yeah. And there's a lot of actually, I often mention is that there's a lot of we should contemplate our insignificance. It's good to contemplate our insignificance. That will make us free of a lot of unnecessary stress, a lot free of false ego as well. Yeah. There's a lot of joy to be had when we consider how small we are. Materialistic people do not contemplate their insignificance. They contemplate their greatness. Yeah. I am the most learned, I'm the coolest guy in town. Yeah. I'm the most beautiful lady, whatever. I'm the most elegant, I'm the best at this. Yeah. Vaishnavas, and that's why the association of Vaishnava is very sweet. So you can imagine these, it's a very sweet exchange that Narada's having with this Brahmana from Prayaga. Yeah, Narada's glorifying him. He's refused, he doesn't like to be glorified. And then he's directing him somewhere else. And this is going to be the continued story format. And we're going to hear about different, at the moment, we're still on Boma. This chapter's on Boma, Earth. Then eventually Narada goes to the higher planets and meets other devotees. Yeah. But any afterthoughts or any reflections about anything we just read there? Speaking about the deity now. Nice description. That the citizens almost forgot he was a non-moving deity. Hopefully we might have that experience in our temple. We forget that Lankaneshwara is a non-moving deity, supreme Lord. And it seems, I remember I heard one time that in Vedic times, no one paid for food. No one had to pay for food. There was no such thing as supermarkets or grocery shops. Because so much prashadam would come from the temples that no one paid. It wasn't known. You just didn't pay for food. It was so abundant. It's so abundantly available. And generally here we're seeing that what was available was prashadam from the temples. I suppose they must have cooked at home as well. There's a whole culture of cooking. So as much as they cooked and offered to their deities. But yeah, this is one of the, I mean, I was reading this, so as I said, I haven't read it completely, but one time I endeavored to read it and I got distracted. And what came apparent to me as well was this distribution of prashadam has a very important role in temples. Yes, so because sometimes when I see how much prashadam gets made, one time I was, as a head pujari, I was feeling a bit stressed because so much, the pujari gets turned upside down and there's to make so much prashadam. But then so much prashad is there that sometimes it's difficult to manage it being made and everything. But then I was reading this and I was thinking, well, that's a sign of great opulence, actually. That we're feeding so many people from our temple, at festivals, and there's so many prashad, so much prashad comes out of that pujari department. It's like an overflowing volcano. It's just like day after day, there's prashad coming out, flowing out every hour. Isn't it? Raj Bhog comes out, and then festivals, it's like coming out the windows. Then you got Vimala chasing everyone, trying to give them prashad, whether they've had prashad or not. It's good. It's a sign of opulence. It's a sign. It's a sign that we're worshiping the Lord, and He's accepting our worship. That we've got this opulence, This is some temples is not like that, Some temples they struggle a lot just to it's not so much opulence, might not be there for various reasons, but our temple is very, very opulent.
Our temple is known all over the world for their lovely lunch. I've met so many people during the different yatras, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth when they're praising Radha Landaneshwara is the prasad that comes out from there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so we should feel good to hear that. Yes, wonderful. Yes, in a humble way, a sense of, not pride's not the right word, but it's true. Yeah, so much prashad. So after I read that and read this section, I started to mellow out a bit about the chaos in the pujari and all the prashadam. What can we do?
Prabhu, you gave them a free hand then. They can
Yeah,
cook
yeah.
as much as they want.
Yeah, sometimes I complain. The trouble is that there's too much devotion around here, you know, so
Yeah.
there's too much prashadam coming out. But we should, and I mean, I don't want to start a whole Istagosi type discussion, but for those cooking for the deities, you should be meditating completely on the deities. It isn't that you're cooking for everyone, you're cooking for the deities, and you're going to give the Mahaprasad out. Cooking for hundreds of people, that's done in another place. We just meditate on Radha, Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Gaura, and Giriraj. We want to make them the best offering, you know, and we give that out, you know. Yeah, Prasad, whatever. Wonderful. Okay.
Just,
Any other comments on that?
yeah, I'm just gonna say that's how Bhakti Chu Maharaj always used to say, when are you cooking for the deities, please just concentrate and cook for the deities with love, that you'll, that they'll enjoy the prasadam so much.
Yeah, that's, you know, that's the focus. You know, you're not cooking for your aunts and uncles and grandmas and everyone else. You're cooking for Krishna. And
That's right,
he's fully
yeah.
absorbed in that, you know. Then we can distribute the Maha. The Maha will be distributed. But anyway, so here we're hearing about a little bit of deity worship. Perhaps if there's no other questions or comments, we can read on. I see Raj Kishore, you have your hand up. You can read text 48.
Okay, text 48. In that kingdom, a joyous, ever-fresh festival is always being celebrated. At each moment, there are new offerings and performances of worship. Commentary: the worship of the main temple of the capital, the worship in the main temple of the capital never became stale and ritualistic. New items of worship were constantly introduced, and most important, the devotees' interest in pleasing the Lord was also ever fresh. Thus, the display of worship pleased both the deity and the public. Text 49. The king respectfully feeds all the residents in his country and many foreign visitors with the remnants of Lord Vishnu's worship. Commentary: to accommodate all the residents and travelers, the king maintained many Vishnu temples throughout the country, but the main temple in the capital was especially famous for its worship and prasad. Text 50 and 51. Saintly devotees of Lord Vishnu come from various countries to reside permanently in the kingdom. They come out of the eagerness to see the lotus-eyed deity of the Lord, to relish the food and other special remnants from the Lord, and to obtain the association of spiritually advanced persons. Commentary: besides pure devotees of Vishnu, other spiritualists also came. Those dressed as holy men were spiritually not fully qualified, were also treated with respect. Even cats and dogs should receive Lord Krishna's prasad, but for the spiritual guidance, one should approach only a bona fide follower of the Vaishnava Parampara. Text 52. The king has given his kingdom away to the demigods and Brahmanas, dividing it among them. His kingdom is completely free from sorrow, social disruption, and fear. Commentary: the king granted to the preceding deities of the local temples and to the Brahmanas of each region official title to the various parts of the country. He considered himself merely the caretaker of the kingdom under authority from its legal owners. In that kingdom, the earth yields crops without being tilled. Rain falls just enough for people's comfort. And whenever fruits and vegetables and clothing one desires are easily to be had. Commentary: in the Bible, Genesis 3:19, we read that God punished Adam for rebellion by cursing him that outside the Garden of Eden, he would have to till the earth to earn his food by the sweat of his face. Previously, the Bible tells us Adam and Eve had enjoyed the fruits of Eden without having to farm. The same ideal condition prevailed thousands of years ago in the South Indian kingdom. Rain fell just enough to make the food good crops, but mostly at night when it would least disturb the citizens.
All right, press the pause button there as well. So this is so firstly, Prayaga Brahmana, he was just a spiritual leader amongst a group of people, amongst probably a few villages or in a particular village or town. But now we're looking at the king. So this Prayaga Brahmana is pointing to this king, and obviously he's inspired by this king. Perhaps that might he may have been one of the inspirations for his devotion. So he's pointing to this king whose his whole kingdom is almost like the spiritual world. Yeah. I mean, I was mentioning about food without paying for it, but here it goes further. That the earth would yield crops without being tilled. How that? So there's no need for farming, no need for agriculture. Yeah. So this is also spoken of in regards to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Kamansavasa patanya savatuku kamashrami sisichus masavam gava payashwe daswati muda. A few words wrong there. We have to look up that verse again. But it glorifies Maharaj. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, the clouds poured forth all the water that people needed. And the cows, due to their cheerful disposition, with so much milk, it would moisten the grazing ground. And the earth would produce all the necessities of man in profusion. Gold, jewels. Yeah. So the earth is a sentient being, and she's very sensitive. So when kings are worshipping the Lord, she becomes very abundant and gives her opulences here to the extent that there was no need for farming. And then he, Gopi Pranadana, then quotes from the Bible. Interesting. That in Genesis. Yeah. So just we can think how far, or we can see. You know, do we see this today?
How far down we have come.
Yeah, how far have we come?
Yes.
And how far have we? So, and the cause of need, or the cause of all the famines, floods, etc., which cause chaos, is due to the people in general are not worshipping the Supreme Lord.
Yep.
Therefore there's chaos.
Yep.
Yeah. People don't understand if they want to be happy in this world. The set of words, no, it's the wrong verse. Sahiyagna Pujishvatva Puravacha Pujavati Anena Pujishtapyam Eko Vostukamutuk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods and blessed them by saying, "Thou happy by this sacrifice, for by his performance you will achieve everything desirous for living happily, and you will achieve liberation." Third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Sahayagna Pujishvatva. Yeah. Yeah, like today, in order to get gold, they have to literally, or minerals, they have to literally, rape the earth. They literally have to dig right into the bowels of the earth to dig out little scraps of, Anyway, any other comments? Yeah, just one thing as well is that if you want, I mean, here we're seeing it's nothing comparing it to what we're reading about. It's quite drastic here. But if you read in the 12th canto, I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It said it gives the symptoms of the age of Kali. So, and there's also an interesting discussion about the age of Kali by Markandeya Rishi in the Mahabharata, because he has got the benediction stroke curse to live for hundreds of kalpas. So he's seen hundreds of Kali Yugas. So he meets the Pandavas and they ask him about Kali Yuga. And it's, oh God, whew, it's a frightening story. Yeah. Yeah, practically cows will be extinct. There will be no such thing as cows. At one point they will be extinct. I'm trying to think of some other highlights. I can't recall now, but it's others, yeah. Some I won't mention here in this august assembly. I won't mention it. It's quite explicit. But yeah, everyone will eat seeds. They won't be eating proper food. They'll only be eating little seeds. You know, to be like Holland and Barrett. You know, I was mentioning one time in class that, you know, we think we're quite proud. You know, we could buy all these packets of seeds and we eating sunflower seeds, and you know, but that's bad. You know, that's like Kali Yuga. Persons are eating seeds. Anyway, so let's get out of here.
Yes.
We got to get out of here as quick as possible. You know, we don't want to hang around. Yeah. Where? All right. So going back in time, we're hearing about a wonderful time. Any other comments or questions, otherwise, or reflections? Yeah, it was a lot about nice to hear about the culture of deity worship, isn't it? It's very nice. I mean, a lot of you are familiar. I'm sure you've been to South India, where the culture of the temple worship is very it's it's very interwoven into the community.
Yep.
To the communities. And I was there, as you might know, I was there a few years ago in South India. My first visit. It was really educational for me. One of this Brahmin he took me to this temple, and they was having a big festival, and all the locals, they all just like some from the from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they had this big fenced off compound. And I looked inside, and it was full of where all the villagers, people from different villages would come to this main deity. And they would bring donations. There was like a mountain of bananas, a mountain of rice, a mountain of dal. That is all bring. You know, so much opulence, you know. And I received this very nicely, you know, very nice. I was insistent that we took prasadam. Didn't refuse. Right.
When we were there, I think Chandravali was with us as well. One of the priests, he was saying, out of the 365 days in a year, they have festivals for 362 days. Every day there is something.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of wonderful. So that reminds me of a text we purple where it said there was ever new offerings were there.
Yeah.
Ever fresh new, yeah. So there you go, 360. What was it? 364 days?
Out of the 365 days,
yeah,
the 362 days, there's always, every day there is some kind of a festival.
Wow, what about the 3 days missing?
Probably Thakurji wants some rest for 3 days.
3 days missing.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're always on the lookout for different festivals and functions that we can practically do. All right, so it's nice, isn't it? We're hearing about the culture of Brahminical culture,
Yeah.
worship. You know. So, anyone? I see Chandravali Mother. You like to read from 54? If I've got it right, I'll be
Okay, 54. The citizens all happily followed the king as if they were his children. They perform their own social duties and are devoted to Lord Krishna. Commentary. Like children who love and respect their parents, the citizens not only obeyed the king's directions, but also wanted to follow the example of his good character. Text 55. The king is always prideless, worshipping Lord Achyuta with services in menial services a menial assistant would perform. He pleases all the people and is dear to the Lord. Commentary. So vast and rich a domain and such a reputation for religious accomplishment would make an ordinary king proud. But this Maharaj was a pure Vaishnav. He was happy to serve the Supreme Lord in a humblest way, washing and decorating the floors of his temple, keeping the temple lamps filled with oil, and so on. As the term Achyuta Priya indicates, he did this not to make a show of humility, but purely out of devotional enthusiasm. Text 56, 57. He always tries to satisfy the Lord. He himself performs Sankirtan before the Lord's deity, chanting the Lord's names composed in various attractive arrangements. He dances, sings wonderful songs, and plays instruments. His sons, wives, brothers, grandsons, priests, servants, ministers, and other subordinate, he has them also take part. Commentary. The king did not have to force his relatives and assistants to take part in the hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, because they were all first-class Vaishnavas. Text 58. These good qualities arise from his devotion for Krishna. How many of them can I count, describe, or even be aware of? Commentary. The Brahmanas' logic is as follows. The king's good qualities I have mentioned are all signs of his being the true recipient of Lord Krishna's mercy. I do not have the same mercy because I do not have the same good qualities. Each of the devotees approached by Narada will argue in a similar way. In fact, however, all these devotees are very fortunate, even if they stand on different levels of perfection. The differences recognized by Narada and those with whom he speaks are spiritual differences, not determined by material rank or position. The devotee Brahmana would not have called the king from the south a better Vaishnava than himself, had the Brahmana held the
Prejudice, yeah.
that Brahmanas are always better than Kshatriyas. 59. Sri Parikshit said, Narad then went to the country of that best kings to see him. Wherever Narad went, he found the people absorbed in festive worship of the Lord. Text 16. Narad arrived at the capital, vibrating his veena with the delight, seeing even greater splendor than the Brahmana had described. He approached the king and spoke. Text 61. Sri Narad said, you are the real recipient of Sri Krishna's mercy. After all, your kingdom is so opulent. It has the best citizens, endowed with the most excellent character, religiousness, prosperity, knowledge, and devotion to God. Commentary. A sure sign of a ruler's virtue is the good qualities of his subjects. The people of this kingdom were not merely decorated with a veneer of culture. They were actually civilized according to Vedic standards. The good citizens did their prescribed duties responsibly. They contributed to the general welfare by working each as he was able to introduce Krishna consciousness practices everywhere, abandoning pride and other godless tendencies. They gave charity by feeding sannyasis and hungry people, used extra wealth for offering in worship of the Supreme Lord, and studied the Vedic scriptures from which they learned the value of liberation and devotional service. The people aspired to become pure devotees of the Lord. Thus, they realize all the goals of human life: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, liberation, and pure Krishna consciousness.
Let's pause there. So now Narada's approaching this king. Yeah, and he's praising him. So interesting where this king's going to send him next. Yeah, I forget actually. I don't know. But it's a few verses up. But I'm just reflecting on. Can you imagine living in a country or living in a province where every single person
It's
is pure-hearted? Yeah, where everyone has godly qualities, where no one is materialistic, no one is selfish, no one
Must be
is
bliss. Bliss.
yeah, no one is lusty,
Hmm.
no one, you could say no one is influenced by the lower modes of material nature. I mean, here, everywhere you look, isn't it? It's like a horror movie. and so
True.
coming to the temple. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I travel on my, when I, because I bike in the morning, and the type of beings that are kind of crawling around at that time in the morning is really, you got to really be careful. You're really careful. One time someone tried to, outside while I was driving past the club down there, and this color guy approached me to steal my bike, and I just, someone over, I managed to escape. But yeah, and it's a dangerous place to be. I mean, any big towns and cities especially, is that's why we have to keep our doors locked in the morning. This is from bad experience. We have to keep them locked. And anyone out on the streets at that time in the morning, they can't be trusted. That's my experience. Sometimes when I was doing reception, anyone would knock on the door, then I wouldn't let them in. Of course,
Safety, isn't it?
yeah, if there was a devotee, obviously. But
Hmm.
practically everyone else is drunk on drugs, so anyway, I've no need to explain it. We all know
Yeah,
that.
Murli Prabhu, it happened
Yeah.
to me as well.
Mhm.
One of the morning when I was driving, the traffic road stopped, and I forgot to lock my door. And this black guy, he opened the door, and then I was literally shocked. And I looked at him, and then he just closed it, and then he went. And oh my God, I was so scared. I was really, really scared in the morning on my own.
Great, the Lord empowered you. You must have looked like
Yeah.
Dave.
I don't know about that, but it was
Close the
very
door.
scary. It was
Yeah,
really
so
scary.
there you go. So this things like, and in other countries, it's worse. There's this thing called carjacking, carjacking, where they stop the car, shoot the person, and just, anyway, let's speak about more pleasant things. So just imagine a place or kingdom where there's none of that at all.
That's why there
No
must
one
be
is
bliss.
eager, yeah, and everyone is eager for. Yeah, some of you might have experience trying to force your relatives to chant the holy name. But here, there's no trouble here. Everyone is spontaneously attracted to the principles of hearing and chanting. So this is Sankirtan. It's going on. So yeah, someone else we have got on the wrong train somehow, and we got in the wrong direction. Yeah, we got on the wrong platform.
Yeah, we are trying now to hope
Yeah,
so
now
the
we're trying to
platform
get
is
on the
right.
platform.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to get on the right train, the right platform, and in the right direction. But therefore, it's such a relief that we have devotee communities, isn't it? Such a relief. You can go to the manor, and there's wonderful devotee communities, and in the temples. Of course, you can really get into it. Yeah, but in temples, there's devotees who are like this and devotees like that. Well, let's put that aside. Let's try and see that they're devotees.
I was going to say the same thing, that it's not what is described here, is it, in the temple now? Well, anyway.
Well, it depends on our vision. It very much depends on our vision. That's what I'm trying to highlight. That is that we see what we could say we see what we want to see. You know, but actually the all devotees, one of just devotees just to see someone with tilak and a bead bag and worshiping the Lord, that person is glorious. Yeah. Of course, this is, some things we have to deal with, obviously, but we should be happy to be an association of devotees, you know. Whatever standard or whatever it is, they are devotees, you know, whatever shape they're coming. They come and do they come in some amazing shapes and forms, but all devotees.
It's so blissful to be there. You somehow seem to get so much energy. You want to do this, you're running around doing.
Yeah. So I guess we have little tasters of this kingdom, a little taste, and a little embassy of our temples, you know. And some of you might in your homes as well. You have deities at home. Some of you probably, families worshipping, so you can experience the atmosphere that creates. So yeah, so you can just imagine a whole country. Then again, you got the spiritual world. That's the whole planet. The whole planet is infused with pure devotion. That's like, wow. And we will be hearing about that. You know? Yes. Anything else about this? We have how long? We have 5 minutes. So let's read a bit more. If there's any other comments or reflections. Yeah, nice, isn't it? We're hearing about the culture of worship. Yeah. Okay. So who has the hand up? So Sahachari Mother, you have your hand. You can read the last few minutes. I must see now.
Okay.
Now it's exciting. Now this king's going to now refute Nara's praises and direct him somewhere else. Yeah.
Text 62. Sri Parikshit said, Narada, the best of Vaishnavas, singing along with his veena, thus expansively described the king, praising his greatness. And Narada embraced him again and again. Text 63. The king, that ruler of a vast region, then worshipped the topmost sage and humbly replied, his head bowed down in embarrassment by the weight of hearing his own praise. Text 64 and 65. The king said, O sage among the demigods, I am a human being with a short lifespan, little opulence, and little to give others. I have no independence. I am constantly attacked by fear and ruled by the threefold miseries of material life. I would not even deserve Krishna's word that in the future he might show me his mercy. Why do you wrongly consider me an object of his compassion? Commentary. The king thought Narada could have mistaken him to be a favored devotee of Krishna's only by failing to use his natural good discretion. Before becoming a pure devotee, one has to free oneself from illusion. But the king's opinion of himself was that he was still Maya's slave, subject to the tyranny of ritual duties. What to speak of having realized his relationship with Lord Krishna? He felt he did not even deserve that the Lord promised, I will show you my favor someday, or understanding, Krishnaanugraha Vakyasya. In another sense, he did not deserve to have anyone say, this person is favored by Krishna. Text 66. The demigods are the real objects of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu's mercy. They have effulgent bodies and are always worshipable by men. Text 67. They are sinless, fixed in goodness, free from distress, and always happy. They act and travel however they like. They give their blessings by granting what their devotees desire. Text 68. This food is the nectar of immortality, which does away with such miseries as death, disease, and old age. Though not forced by hunger or thirst, the demigods enjoy great satisfaction in partaking of this nectar by their own sweet will. Text 69. O godly Narada, on the strength of their good fortune, they live in the realm of heaven, which humans on the earth can attain only by perfect pious work. Commentary. The saintly king proposes that the demigods are the most favored devotees of Krishna. To demonstrate this, he contrasts them with ordinary human beings. Humans like himself acknowledge the superiority of the demigods and worship them in Vedic sacrifices. The demigods less encumbered than humans by physical restraints, are free to travel as they like, even flying in the sky without vehicles. Some rich and powerful humans may be famous for charity, but the demigods have universal powers by which they can fulfill all their worshippers' desires. The Soma nectar the demigods drink frees them from death, disease, and old age. And as implied by the word Adi and so on, also from fatigue, perspiration, bodily odor, and other embarrassments. Since the demigods are never hungry or thirsty, one might question what benefit they derive from drinking their soma. The king answers that they enjoy soma very much. Their pleasure is more subtle than the annamaya gratification of ordinary eating and drinking. Compared with the mortals of earth, the inhabitants of heaven seem immortal and independent. Thus, they must therefore be most dear to Lord Krishna. Text 70. My dear sage, the most distinguished of these demigods is Purandara Indra. He has full power to reward and punish, and he gives the world life by providing rain. Commentary. Purandara is the name of the current king of heaven.
Okay, perhaps let's
71.
stop there. Let's pause there for today. Good verse to pause on. 17. We'll begin 71 next week. So now it seems we're leaving Bhoma. Let me just going to scroll forward a bit, see if there's a new. Yeah. So where next week we're going to go to Divya. We're going to go to heaven. Okay. So get ready for that. And a few more verses in this chapter.
Up on the way.
Huh?
I said up on the way to heaven.
Yeah, we're going up. We're going up to heaven. So any finishing comments or reflections, something perhaps someone could just share something which kind of it caught their attention and you might. You haven't all forgot what you read.
No, I think because he's giving the reason why he's not worthy, because of the lifespan and all the human deformities. That is the difference. And so he's guiding that the demigods are far better, better recipient than himself.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he's looking at the material facility.
Yes.
Because as we know, it'd be interesting the purpose, because as we know that the demigods are mixed devotees in general.
Yeah.
And and perhaps we could say that this king might be even more devoted. Well, depends than a demigod. Anyway, as the demigods themselves are going to point out, I am sure.
Yes.
So he's going to Purandhara, which is the present name of Indra and his opulences. But I'm sure Indra's got a few stories to tell how he hasn't been favored by Krishna, actually. So we'll probably hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a few, what do you call it? Like he's got a few,
will be coming out.
he's got a few skeletons in the closet.
Yes.
All right. Perhaps we'll stop there. Let's finish this week's readings and look forward to next week's readings. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Murli. His grace.
Thank you so much.